My name is Loretta P. Horney. I am 30 years old, and I did not leave my boyfriend because he slept with another woman. As far as I knew, on the night I walked out, Vincent had not technically crossed that final line. I left because of one sentence. A single arrogance-soaked sentence that cut through 3 years of confusion and revealed exactly what I meant to him. I was not his partner. I was his audience, his financial safety net, and the dependable woman waiting at home while he collected attention from everyone else. To understand why I walked out of a crowded ballroom without screaming, you need to understand Vincent. He was objectively handsome, tall, sharply dressed, effortlessly charming, the type of man who could enter a room and make several women straighten their posture without realizing it. Vincent knew the effect he had. During our first year together, his confidence was intoxicating. I felt lucky that someone so magnetic had chosen a quiet engineer like me. By year 3, the intoxication had faded. What remained was a constant emotional hangover. His appearance was not simply one part of his personality, it was the center of it. Attention was his currency. If a waitress did not flirt with him, she was rude. If women at the gym failed to stare, he came home asking whether he looked tired or old. My role was to reassure him, finance the lifestyle that maintained his image, and stay quiet while he searched for validation elsewhere. The worst part was how he reacted whenever I mentioned it. Julia was the perfect example. She was a new sales employee in his department. According to Vincent, Julia was brilliant, hilarious, confident, and unlike anyone he had ever met. Soon, every dinner became the Julia show. Julia said my presentation was the strongest one today. Julia thinks my boss is intimidated by me. Julia said you sound very safe. She meant it as a compliment, Loretta. Don't make that face. A week before his company's holiday party, I finally reached my limit. It was Tuesday night. I had just finished paying the bills for the trendy apartment Vincent insisted we rent, although my engineering salary covered nearly 90% of it. He was stretched across the sofa, smiling at his phone. "Who are you texting?" "Just Julia." He never looked up. "She's sending memes about our manager. She's terrible." It's 10:30 at night. He sighed dramatically. "And? Do you think texting a female coworker this late while sitting beside your girlfriend is appropriate?" His expression shifted into the familiar mixture of pity and disgust he used whenever I attempted to establish a boundary. "Oh my God, here we go again." "It isn't jealousy, Vincent. You talk about her constantly. She's friendly. You prioritize her attention over my comfort." He walked to the refrigerator and opened a sparkling water. "Do you know what your problem is?" I closed the laptop. "You have no confidence." He gestured toward himself with a smirk. "I get approached by women constantly. If I wanted to cheat, I could have done it years ago, but I'm still with you." "That is not reassuring." "It should be." He leaned against the counter, studying me as though I were an ungrateful employee. "Most women would love having a boyfriend other women want. It makes you look successful. So I should be grateful?" "Yes," he said, turning toward the bedroom. "Honestly, you should." I slept on the sofa that night, not because he ordered me to, because I could no longer tolerate the heat of his entitlement beside me. Still, I convinced myself it was a rough period. I was wrong. The holiday party took place at the Ritz-Carlton. Vincent wore a tailored tuxedo. I wore a midnight blue dress I had purchased specifically because he complained my formal clothes looked too conservative. As we stepped out of the car, I told him he looked handsome. "I know," he replied, checking his reflection in the window. Then he looked at me. "Please don't make anything awkward tonight. Julia will be there." For 10 minutes, everything remained calm. Then Julia entered. She was tall, polished, and dressed in silver. The moment she saw Vincent, she crossed the room and wrapped both arms around him. "You look incredible," she said. Her hug lasted too long. Vincent's entire posture changed. He turned away from me as though I had disappeared. For the next hour, I stood beside the bar watching Julia touch his arm, whisper into his ear, and guide him through the room with her hand against his lower back. At 10:45, I approached them near the balcony doors. Julia leaned close and pressed a slow kiss against Vincent's cheek. Her hand slid around his waist. Vincent leaned into her. Vincent. He flinched and turned toward me. Oh. Hey. We're leaving. Julia laughed softly. The party is just beginning. I wasn't speaking to you. Vincent's face hardened. You're embarrassing me. She just kissed you. She's having fun. Something you apparently don't understand. Several coworkers turned toward us. I gave him one final chance. Get your coat. His lips twisted into a cruel smile. You should be grateful women want me. Being seen with me raises your value. The anger inside me vanished. All that remained was clarity. I placed his coat ticket in his hand. You're right. His smile faltered. What? You're right. I should be grateful. Then I stepped back. And I'm especially grateful I finally understand who you are. Loretta, stop being dramatic. I'm not your girlfriend anymore. I looked toward Julia. He's yours. Make sure your credit limit is high. Then I walked away. By sunrise, I intended to be completely gone. The ride back to the apartment lasted only 20 minutes, but it felt much longer. My phone buzzed twice inside my purse. Both messages were from Vincent. I did not open them. I already knew what they would say. You embarrassed me. You ruined the party. Grow up. There was no message he could send that would change what I had seen in his face when he told me I should feel grateful. I unlocked the apartment at 11:40 p.m. The living room was dark and silent except for the soft clicking of Buster's claws across the hardwood floor. Our golden retriever trotted toward me, sleepy and confused. I knelt and pressed my face into his fur. Hey, buddy, I whispered. We're leaving. I did not smash anything. I did not destroy Vincent's clothes or leave behind a dramatic letter. I moved with the cold efficiency of someone closing a failed business before the losses grew worse. I pulled 3 suitcases from the closet. First came the essentials. My clothes, my work laptop, my passport, birth certificate, insurance papers, and the copy of the lease bearing both our names. Then I packed the things that actually belonged to the life I had built. My books. The framed photographs of my parents. The espresso machine I owned before meeting Vincent. The gaming console I had purchased with my first engineering bonus. I left every photograph of us face down on the kitchen counter. For nearly 4 hours, I worked without stopping. By 3:30 in the morning, the apartment looked strangely hollow. My side of the closet was empty. Large sections of the bookshelves were bare. The space beneath the television looked unfinished. It was the perfect image of our relationship. I had filled the rooms. Vincent had enjoyed living inside them. The final step was financial. I sat at the kitchen island and opened my laptop. From our joint checking account, I transferred the exact amount I had personally deposited that month into my private savings. I removed myself as an authorized user from the credit card Vincent carried, the same card he used for emergencies like designer shoes, expensive dinners, and last-minute formal wear. Then I scheduled the electricity and internet services in my name to end 48 hours later. That gave him enough time to make arrangements. It did not give him enough time to remain comfortable while pretending nothing had changed. At 4:15, I loaded the last suitcase into my vehicle. Buster climbed into the passenger seat. I returned upstairs one final time and placed my apartment key on the kitchen counter beside an empty wine bottle Vincent had abandoned 2 nights earlier. No note. My absence was the explanation. I drove to a 24-hour motel on the edge of the city. After carrying Buster's bed into the room, I turned off my phone and collapsed onto the stiff mattress. For the first time in years, I slept without grinding my teeth. I turned the phone on shortly after noon. Notifications flooded the screen. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages. The earliest one had arrived at 11 that morning. I just woke up at Jessica's. My head hurts. Are you still sulking? I need a ride home. 45 minutes later. Where are you? Pick up. Then. I'm at the apartment. Where is your stuff? Loretta. This isn't funny. And shortly afterward. Did you take Buster? You cannot just steal the dog. The final text read, My card was declined. What did you do? I opened the voicemails while eating a packaged sandwich from the motel vending machine. Vincent's first message was furious. Loretta, you are acting like a dramatic child. You moved out because of one party? Come back immediately and apologize. I am not dealing with this today. The next voicemail arrived 2 hours later. His anger had begun cracking. The landlord emailed me. He says you requested to remove yourself from the lease. I cannot afford this apartment alone, and you know it. You cannot abandon me financially. This is abuse. I almost laughed. For 3 years, he had treated my income as part of his identity. Now that I had removed it, he called the consequence cruelty. The third voicemail came that evening. He sounded drunk. Fine, leave. You were holding me back anyway. Julia understands me. She values me. Do not come crawling back when you realize what you lost. I blocked his number. Then I blocked every social media account he used. I rented a small Airbnb for 1 month. It had a fenced yard for Buster and enough room for me to work while searching for something permanent. The first week felt strange. The silence was unfamiliar. No phone constantly lighting up with late-night messages from women. No expensive packages arriving at the door. No arguments about whether my concerns were proof that I lacked confidence. I went to work. I walked Buster each evening. I started viewing condominiums in quiet neighborhoods far from Vincent's preferred nightlife district. My account balance stopped shrinking. I slept more deeply. Slowly, I realized how much energy I had spent monitoring another person's ego. I assumed Vincent had already moved on. In my imagination, he and Julia were attending expensive restaurants and posting photographs that suggested they had finally become the glamorous couple he believed they were meant to be. I prepared myself to see them together. 10 days after the holiday party, my office phone rang. The caller was Dave, one of Vincent's coworkers. He lowered his voice as though hiding inside a supply closet. I know you probably don't want updates, he said, but you need to hear this. I really don't. Loretta, it's a disaster. I stopped typing. What happened? Vincent came into work Monday looking destroyed. Then he walked straight to Julia's desk and announced, in front of everyone, that he had finally gotten rid of the woman holding him back. My grip tightened around the phone. He asked her to go out with him that night, Dave continued. He acted like they had some secret agreement. And? Dave laughed nervously. Julia has a boyfriend, a serious one. They're planning to move in together. I said nothing. She stared at Vincent like he was insane. Then she told him they had only been joking around at work. The validation Vincent had mistaken for devotion disappeared the moment he tried to collect it. But Dave was not finished. Vincent started shouting. He accused her of leading him on and mentioned the kiss at the party. Julia denied it and filed a complaint with Human Resources before he could file one against her. What happened to him? Administrative leave. Probably termination. I closed my eyes. And the apartment? He has been sleeping on Jessica's sofa. Apparently, she is already tired of him. The irony was so clean it almost felt unreal. Vincent had spent 3 years teaching me that attention meant value. Now he was learning that attention and commitment were not the same thing. Before ending the call, Dave warned me that Vincent had been asking everyone for my new number. He says he made a mistake. No, I replied. He made a choice. When I hung up, I stared at the quiet room around me. For the first time, I understood that I had not lost the prize. I had stopped paying for the illusion. Then my personal phone began ringing from an unfamiliar number. I watched it vibrate across the desk. Somehow, before I even answered, I knew it was him. The unfamiliar number rang twice before I answered. This is Loretta. For a moment, there was only breathing. Then Vincent spoke. Loretta? His voice was smaller than I remembered. Not charming, not confident, just uncertain. It's me. Please don't hang up. I leaned back in my office chair. How did you get this number? I borrowed someone's phone. I looked through the second-floor window toward the courtyard below. A figure stood near the fountain wearing a gray hoodie and dark jeans. Vincent. No tailored jacket, no polished shoes, no crowd watching him. "I'm outside your building," he said. "I saw your car. Please give me 5 minutes." I considered calling security immediately, but I knew he would keep searching until he convinced himself there was still a chance. "5 minutes," I said. "Then you leave." I walked downstairs. When I stepped through the revolving doors, he looked up. The change was startling. His eyes were red. His hair was unwashed and pulled away from his face carelessly. Without the expensive clothes and practiced smile, he looked almost ordinary. He moved toward me with his arms opening. I stepped back. "Don't." He froze. His hands dropped slowly. "I don't even know where to begin." "Begin with why you're here." Tears filled his eyes almost immediately. "I made a mistake." "Yes." "Julia lied to me." I said nothing. "She made me believe there was something between us. She flirted with me every day. She kissed me at the party. Then, when I was finally free, she acted like I was crazy." "You were not free," I said. "You were abandoned by the safety net you assumed would always be there." His face tightened. "She manipulated me." "No. She gave you exactly what you wanted." "What is that supposed to mean?" "Attention." I folded my arms. "She complimented you. She flirted with you. She made you feel desirable. You enjoyed it because validation matters more to you than loyalty." "That isn't who I am." "It is exactly who you are." He stepped closer. "When she humiliated me, I realized what I had at home." I almost laughed at the phrase. At home. Not who I had. What I had. "You had someone who paid most of your rent, handled the bills, cared for the dog, and waited while you performed for other women." "That's not fair." "It is completely fair." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "I loved you. You loved being loved by me." His expression crumpled. For one brief second, the pain in his face looked real enough to awaken the old instinct inside me, the one trained to comfort him whenever consequences arrived. Then he said, "I want to come home." There it was. Not "I want to repair what I broke." Not "I understand what I did." "I want to come home." "I'm ready to change," he continued. "I'll stop texting women. I'll stop flirting. I'll do whatever you want." "You are saying that because Julia rejected you." "No. Your job is at risk. That has nothing to do with this. You cannot afford the apartment." His silence answered for him. "You are not choosing me, Vincent. You are trying to return to the branch you released because the next one snapped." "That's cruel." "It is accurate." He reached for my forearm. I removed his hand. "I chose you," he whispered. "Julia means nothing. You did not choose me at the party. I was drunk. You said I should be grateful women wanted you." He winced. "I didn't mean it." "You meant it enough to say it in front of your coworkers." I was angry. "No, you were honest." He looked around the courtyard, suddenly aware that people entering the building could see us. Even now, an audience mattered. "I can be the boyfriend you wanted. I no longer want a boyfriend who must be taught not to humiliate me." His sadness shifted. The entitlement surfaced so quickly that it was almost impressive. "You're throwing away 3 years. I ended 3 years of being disrespected. You're going to regret this." "Why?" "Because women want me." He gestured toward himself as though the evidence should have been obvious. "You know how many women would kill to be with someone like me?" I stared at him. The tears had not changed him. Rejection had not humbled him. It had only frightened him temporarily. "You're still doing it." His expression sharpened. "Doing what?" "You still think you're the prize." "I know my worth." "No. You know how much attention you can attract. Those are not the same thing." I checked my watch. "Your 5 minutes are over." I turned toward the building. "Loretta!" His voice echoed across the courtyard. "You cannot just leave me standing here." I looked back. Vincent stood beside the fountain, his shoulders slumped beneath a borrowed-looking hoodie. The man who had once told me his presence increased my value now looked terrified that I would disappear. You told me I should be grateful you wanted me, I said. His lips parted. I smiled. Look at us now. I'm peaceful. I'm financially stable. I sleep at night. I let the silence stretch. And you are standing outside my office asking for a home because the woman whose attention you valued rejected you. That's not. I guess you should be grateful I wanted you. He stared at me. Past tense. I walked back through the revolving doors. I never looked behind me. By the time I returned to my desk, my hands were trembling. Not from regret. From release. That evening, I toured a condo in a quiet neighborhood beside a large park. It had a modest kitchen, a sunny bedroom, and a private yard, where Buster immediately rolled across the grass. The real estate agent laughed. I think he approves. I looked around. Nothing about the place was designed to impress strangers. That was exactly why I loved it. I submitted an offer before leaving. 3 days later, it was accepted. The same week, Dave confirmed that Vincent had been terminated. Human Resources concluded that he had created an inappropriate workplace situation and then publicly confronted Julia after she rejected him. Without his job or my income, he could no longer keep the apartment. Jessica asked him to leave her couch after less than 2 weeks. According to Dave, Vincent moved back in with his mother. He tried contacting me through email, blocked numbers, and accounts created under false names. I never answered. For 3 years, he had trained me to believe silence meant weakness. Now silence was the boundary he could not manipulate. I moved into the condo the following month. The first night, Buster slept beside the back door while rain tapped against the windows. There were still boxes everywhere. No furniture in the dining area. No curtains. No expensive neighborhood outside. Yet the empty rooms felt more complete than the apartment Vincent and I had shared. I had mistaken prestige for happiness. Now I understood the difference. Peace did not announce itself. It simply arrived when chaos stopped having a key. 3 months after I moved into the condo, the place finally started feeling lived in. I bought a dining table small enough for the space, hung curtains in the bedroom, and built a low wooden shelf beneath the living room window for Buster to lie on while watching people pass outside. My life became quieter. Not empty. Quiet. There was a difference. I went to work, came home, walked Buster through the park, and made dinner without wondering whose attention Vincent was chasing. My bank account recovered faster than I expected. Without designer purchases, expensive restaurants, and constant pressure to maintain an image that was never mine, I began saving again. I also stopped checking social media for signs of him. At first, that took discipline. Then it became natural. Dave occasionally sent updates, though I never asked. Vincent's dismissal from the company became official after the investigation concluded. Julia received a warning for inappropriate workplace conduct, but she kept her job. Her boyfriend stayed with her. Vincent did not. He moved back into his mother's home and began telling people that I had financially destroyed him. According to him, I had abandoned him without warning, taken the dog, canceled utilities, and left him unable to afford the apartment. He never mentioned the party. He never mentioned Julia's kiss. He never mentioned what he said to me in front of his coworkers. For people like Vincent, the story always begins at the consequence, never at the choice that created it. He continued contacting me for several weeks. A new email address, a message through an old professional account, one voicemail left from his mother's phone. The tone changed each time, first angry, then nostalgic, then romantic, then threatening. One message said, "Nobody will ever know you the way I do." That was true. He knew exactly how long I would tolerate disrespect before finally leaving. He simply believed that limit did not exist. I saved every message in a folder and never responded. 6 months after the holiday party, I attended the wedding of an old university friend. For a moment, I considered declining. The idea of another ballroom, another tuxedo-filled room, and another night surrounded by couples reminded me too much of the evening I left Vincent. Then I realized avoiding the setting would give him ownership of a memory that no longer belonged to him. I wore the same midnight blue dress from the company party. This time, I chose it because I liked it, not because someone else thought it made me look less conservative. At the reception, I stood near the drinks table while the newlyweds danced. A man beside me smiled when Buster's photograph appeared on my phone screen. Golden Retriever? I looked over. He was around my age, dressed simply, with warm brown eyes and a slightly crooked tie. Yes, his name is Buster. I'm Daniel, the groom's cousin. Loretta. We began talking. Not flirting aggressively, not performing, talking. Daniel asked about my engineering work and actually listened to the answer. He told me about the small architecture firm he had recently joined. We talked about books, travel, difficult bosses, and dogs that believed every piece of furniture belonged to them. Hours passed. He never scanned the room for someone more attractive. He did not check whether anyone was watching us. He remained present. At one point, Daniel smiled. You seem very grounded. I almost laughed. 6 months earlier, I had felt like I was disappearing inside someone else's vanity. Now, a stranger was describing me as grounded. I learned the hard way that peace matters more than prestige, I said. Daniel nodded. That sounds like an expensive lesson. It was. We exchanged numbers before leaving. I did not rush into anything. Neither did he. We met for coffee the following weekend. Then dinner. Then long walks through the park with Buster, who approved of Daniel immediately. The relationship developed without performance. Daniel complimented me, but he never demanded admiration in return. He spoke respectfully about the women in his life. If someone flirted with him, he did not store the moment like a trophy. He simply moved on. The contrast was almost painful at first. It showed me how little I had once accepted as love. One evening, Daniel asked why I had been single. I told him the truth without dramatizing it. My former boyfriend needed everyone to want him. Daniel thought for a moment. That sounds exhausting. It was. And what do you need now? The question reminded me of the one I had once asked Vincent again and again without receiving an honest answer. Respect, I said. Consistency. Peace. Daniel smiled. That sounds reasonable. It should have always sounded reasonable. By then, Vincent had finally stopped trying to reach me. I heard from Dave that he was working at a smaller company in another town. The glamorous life he believed he deserved had disappeared. I did not celebrate. I did not feel sorry for him either. He had lost his job, his apartment, and the relationship that supported him. But the greatest loss was something he would probably never understand. He lost the only person who had loved him beyond the attention, beauty, and image. I had loved the insecure man underneath all of it. Then he taught me that love without respect becomes self-abandonment. Looking back, I did not leave because Julia kissed his cheek. I left because Vincent believed my discomfort was less important than his ego. I left because he expected me to finance the relationship, applaud his desirability, and accept humiliation as the price of being chosen. He once told me I should be grateful women wanted him. In the end, attention was all he had. It disappeared the moment it demanded responsibility. I had something better. A peaceful home, a stable life, a dog sleeping beside my feet, and eventually, a man who looked directly at me when I spoke. Vincent was right about one thing. He taught me my worth. He taught me I was worth more than being an audience to someone else's vanity. For that lesson, and only that lesson, I suppose I am grateful.